Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Well, hope you had a great weekend, everybody. Let's get on with it for another week of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Welcome to the program. Huss and Reem with you. Lots of Bomber talk today, coming off of a very disappointing Friday night in Regina, where the Bombers lost 19-9 to the Saskatchewan Roughriders. The voice of the Bombers, Derek Taylor, is going to join us first up, and then it'll be a little hammer time. And we'll save most of the other CFL conversation for CFL 110 later on this week, but we will also touch on some wild games in the league this weekend, which included the Stamps shocking the BC Lions last night and the Ticats getting their first win of the season. Also, big win for the Seabears yesterday. They are down to the short strokes of their season. Sold out on Saturday, opening the Upper Bowl for the final home game tomorrow. And Joey Slattery is going to join us. We'll talk about the win and the playoff picture for the Seabears, why these final three games are so important, including a home-and-home with Calgary, a team they are chasing for a playoff spot. So Joey Slattery a little later on, and we're also going to check in with Golf Manitoba and the Not Autocorp Men's Amateur Championship as Braxton Kuntz of Breezy Bend looks to make it a historic 4 straight Men's Amateur Championships. He's out there on the course this morning at Rossmere. We'll talk to him a little later on today after his round. So busy one today. Great to have you all with us. Great weekend as well. I'll touch on that in just a sec. But just before we get into it and welcome Michael Remis in, don't forget Wednesday, a new edition of CFL 110 brought to you by Garage Living Winnipeg drops. Also want to thank Princess Auto, Coolbet Canada, Rollies Transfer, Consolidated Supply, and Manitoba Battery. Canadian Club, Wallace & Wallace, F Apparel, Little Brown Jug, The Beer Can, along with Next Door on Sherbrooke, and of course, Hoagie Boys on South Osborne, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, the Gold Eyes, Red Hot Gold Eyes, I should mention, bringing out the brooms against the Milkmen on the weekend, heading into the All-Star break, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, Assiniboia Downs, back in action tonight. We'll get to our picks a little later on, and of course, our pals at Breezy Bend with their golf update, focusing on one of the most decorated golfers to come out of Breezy Bend in a long time. We'll also get to a why not question of the day, potentially discussing the final play of the game between the Bombers and Roughriders. Let's get Michael Remis in here as we welcome everybody watching on YouTube Live. Great to have you all with us. Shout out, have no fear, Sam Crow is here. What's up, Sam Crow? The rest of the gang. And what's up, Remo? How are you? How was your weekend?
I'm feeling good. Great weekend. Wonderful weather. Got out to the beach Saturday. Spent some time at my brother-in-law's pool yesterday afternoon. So, man, I'm pretty cooked. Been out in the sun. Went to the park. I was speaking to you. A lot nice here. So much stuff going on in the city. Seabears Saturday. Gold Eyes all weekend. They're on a 6-game win streak. But also, we talked about this on Friday, the Outdoor Comedy Festival at Assiniboia Park. Very cool. 3-day event. And Super Spike on Saturday, bringing all the volleyball players together. So a lot of stuff going on here.
I went coast to coast. Normally I don't want to say in a bit of a bubble, but I mean, I'm usually in and around the Corden area. I'll get downtown for games. But I was all over the place. I helped out with Super Spike, hosting the stage for our pal Greg Pasechnik on Saturday afternoon. So I was out there at basically Maple Grove, if you're not familiar with it. Essentially it's St. Mary's in the perimeter. And what an unbelievable event that is. I mean, it's over 20 years old right now. They sold out 350 teams. There were, 40, 50 courts going nonstop throughout the day. Everyone having just an absolute blast. They did have a couple weather delays just because of lightning in the area, which was a bit of a pain in the ass, but they managed to get through all that. And then had sold out the concert, was able to release, I think, another 400 tickets during the day. Those got snapped up right away. And the party, headlined by Down with Webster, was apparently unbelievable. I wasn't able to stick around, though, for that because I was lucky enough to take in the Great Outdoors Comedy Festival with Bill Burr on Saturday night. And Remis, I have to tell you, I mean, you missed out big time. Major whiff by you. Your pal Benji Rothman was killing it, hosting the event and doing some of his own material. It's like very close to you.
Yes.
And Bill Burr coming in. I mean, the time management abilities, you're not getting an A for the weekend because you didn't find a way to be there. And I got to tell you, it was absolutely well worth it. Like, I talked to a bunch of people on Saturday that were there on Friday. I believe it was Nate Brigazzi and Danny or Bobby Lee. Everyone loved it. And oh my God, the venue. Like, I get it if you're in GA, you were probably pretty far back because of just how many people were out there. But what they did with the VIP area, with the tables and everything, I mean, it was stunning. It was an absolutely perfect night. And I think Bill Burr was the only guy that really got, attacked by mosquitoes as it got later on, because I'll be honest with you, in most of the park, it was not an issue at all. But what an incredible event. It finished up last night. Be coming back next year. If you have not had a chance to do it, in the future, get out there next season. It was a really, really cool weekend for the city. And while it was a little quiet on the sports scene, with the Bombers playing on Friday, certainly it wasn't a quiet Saturday with the Fish and the Seabirds going. There was so much to do in Winnipeg this weekend, and it was a heck of a lot of fun. And I just have to tell you, my God, Bill Burr, I had high expectations and hopes. He smashed him. He was unbelievable. I've been chuckling to myself for the last 2 days since his show. But overall, it was good. But yeah, I did miss you at that one, Reem. That was right up your alley.
I messed up. I probably should have been there. I was thinking about that all day Saturday, but I got invited to other events at that time that I couldn't decline. So unfortunate time management on my part, but I put me in for next year. Very cool to see, big events at Assiniboia Park. I think about, obviously a much bigger scale, but in Chicago, they have Grant Park in the middle of the city, or middle of downtown. They have Lollapalooza there. Now, this obviously isn't that, but, you don't really have those big scale events here at Assiniboia Park, and nice to see them make use of the stage and the area there, and I hope more to come like that. That's awesome.
Well, you know what? And you'll be happy to know this. I got to thank, I won't do it individually, but I had so many folks, first of all, from Super Spike, a lot of people coming up and saying hi, which is nice. A much younger demographic, but a lot of people getting into what we're doing here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. And man, I saw a couple WST hats at the comedy event on Saturday night and had a bunch of kind words about what we're doing at the event. And then later on, actually, I'll give a shout out to our friends in St. James. There were so many people there, like planning on getting an Uber or something right afterwards wasn't really, it wasn't going to happen quickly. So we walked down to the Silver Heights, iconic St. James spot, had a few there and some wings, and then ended up, and this is why I said I literally went coast to coast from St. Mary's in the perimeter, made it out to Portage in the perimeter, and capped off the night with a couple at Hat Tricks, which I believe is in the Hojo there, right close to the perimeter. Anyways, the guys that originally built that place did such a good job of it. So went in there and finished it out. So all over the city with a great time. But it's back to work right now for everyone except the Goldeyes, of course, who finished off the weekend sweeping Milwaukee, making it 6 in a row. As I joked to Andrew when he was on, Andrew Collier, Goldeyes GM, when he was with us on Thursday or Friday, Remis, the team problem, Logan Watkins probably wishes they could just keep going right now and push the All-Star break off for a week or two because the team is playing some great baseball right now. But I did see right now Max Murphy and a whole bunch of the Goldeyes that aren't participating in the All-Star game out at the park right now with kids from around the city in Manitoba doing a great community event with a Goldeyes baseball camp. And then Max and some of the other fellas are going to get the rods up and head out to the White Shell for a few days. But a big, big weekend for the Goldeyes. A big win for the Sea Bears. We'll touch on that a little later on. Not so for our Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Remis. A very, very frustrating night for the offense in Regina, putting up only single digits. 3 Sergio Castillo field goals was all the Bomber offense could muster. For the first time in a long time, hearing questions about Zach Collaros. Zach didn't have a great first month of the season. Missed game 5. Strevler came in, got the win. Certainly looked a lot more like the Zach of old against Calgary, but not so much. Stymied by the Saskatchewan defense for most of the night yesterday, or on Friday night, I should say. And now the Bombers 2-5 heading into Toronto before a home and home with the BC Lions, who are going to be in a mood themselves after dropping a very winnable game to Calgary last night.
Yeah, that was the upset of the weekend. Vernon Adams, sometimes he looks like the MOP, but other times he turns the ball over and makes some poor decisions like we saw yesterday. But for the Bombers, like, that game was there for the taking. It was right there. I thought the interception was absolutely killer. First down, double coverage. You're in the red scoring zone. Like, you're not going to win games if you don't score touchdowns. I know. I was shocked how much Dusty and Glenn Suter just ripped the officiating for those terrible PI calls. But
oh my God.
But I still, I don't think the Bombers offense didn't play well enough to win. And when you thought they had the shot with Dembski on that run and it gets punched out, you can't turn the ball over in the scoring zone, in the red zone. You're not going to win games. And they turned it over 3 times and didn't generate any turnovers. So you're not going to, it's tough. I thought it was right there. They didn't execute, as they like to say. And, Brady Oliveira, amazing game, 49 yards on the ground, leading receiver, 9 catches on 9 targets, 80 yards. You can't be winning games. You're just dumping. He'd 67 yards after the catch on 80 total yards. You can't win games when you're just dumping it off. And that's why you have questions about Zach, missing on the deep ball, underthrowing a number of times this season. But I thought they were right there, Huss, but it doesn't put you in the win column, and they lose 19-9 to your big rival. And then you had, at the end of the game, Adam Bighill sending a message for the next one. But I don't know. I don't know how to feel about the ball. I feel like all their losses, they've been right there.
Yeah, well, and I know this was a 10-point loss.
Except for the Montreal. They got smoked against Montreal.
Yeah.
The other ones
game of the season, that
were
was
like
a big
last
wake-up
play.
Call. Everything else has been tight. But, what was it, 6-6 at halftime? I mean, you had to feel that the team was right there. The defense was playing really well. And the offense did move the football. He had 266, close to 300 yards. But they just didn't really do much when they got into the Saskatchewan zone. And when they did get close, they made mistakes. I mean, yeah, the first pick that Zach threw was an absolute killer. And I will say this about the Dembski play. That was as good of a defensive play as you will see. And CFL, NFL, NCAA. Was it Jameer Thurman that made that play?
Yeah, it was nice.
To grab, so Dembski's running, and Dembski's a guy that usually does very well with ball security. He gets grabbed on his left shoulder. So that's where Dembski feels like the pressure is coming from. Grabs his left shoulder, moves the ball over away from that, as you would assume someone does, and then as he's getting his left shoulder grabbed, comes around the right side and punches the ball out. It was a textbook defensive play by a great player. And listen, at some point you got to sort of tip your hat, but there were a number of plays that the Bombers wish they had back. We're going to get to Zach Collaros, like Doug Brown. Doug Brown had some very, very pointed comments during the broadcast and the post game, and tweets, about the question about Zach Collaros. And I know Zach's saying everything's fine, my arm's good. It didn't look that way. I mean, the one that freaked me out the most, Remis, was that play where I believe it was Pokey Wilson was wide open. And that was a 69-yard touchdown waiting to happen. He had to wait so long for that football to get there the Saskatchewan defender was able to make up the 4 or 5 steps and get his hand in the way. And like, I'm not sure that in previous years that doesn't go for 6, and Castillo's kicking an extra point. So there was some concerning signs from Zach Collaros, and I think and I'm not there yet. I still think Zach gives them the best chance to win, but it's pretty easy to hear from Bomber fans that there's a lot more debate, shall we say, right now about where Zach's at. And you know what? You are what your record says you are. And right now, Zach Collaros as a starting quarterback this season is 1-5. And that is not up to the standards that this team has set for a long time, and certainly nowhere close to the expectations that the organization has for the 2024 Bombers.
Yeah, and you look at the numbers, Huss, and who's leading the league in interceptions with 7, Zach Collaros, and the touchdown to interception ratio pretty bad, 2 touchdowns, 7 picks. Completion percentage, I'm looking down the list of other starters. His 65.3 is behind Vernon Adams, Bo Levi Mitchell, MBT, Jake Mayer, Trevor Harris, Cameron Dukes, Cody Fajardo. So just about every other starter, except for the one you just lost to, Shea Paterson. You have a worse completion percentage then. So I do think they've been right there. Like, I'm still gonna put the Bombers. I think the Bombers are better than, they beat Calgary. They're better than Edmonton. They're better than Hamilton. We'll see about Toronto this weekend. They beat Ottawa. I think it's Saskatchewan, BC, and Montreal are a tier above the rest of the league. But you look, as you said, you are what your record is, and right now they're 2-5. And I think the defense has been solid. Special teams, they put in the returner Cody Case on the weekend, and he didn't do much while Janarian Grant runs for another touchdown and makes it a wild finish there against Hamilton. So it's tough to look at the Bombers right now, Huss. So your point differential, you're in the negative, not going well on offense for them, and they had to face some tough questions. I want to give Taylor Allen a shout out for asking Zach and Coach Mike O'Shea. He was grinding him hard about the poor play of the offense, and yeah, if you score 9 points, you're probably not going to win. If you're not scoring touchdowns, you're not going to win. So, we can dump on, some of the officiating calls. I mean, they only got 3 points off the one. Was that on Ford? Like, that was a bogus call, but they weren't good enough to win. So, too bad. And we'll see how it's a tough test. The schedule here gets really hard, and that's so you needed that win too, because now you could have made up a game on Saskatchewan. They're 5-1 now, leading the West, and would have been nice to get that win to go to 3-5. Because again, the schedule here is tough.
Rider fans are feeling themselves right now, as they should be. The team is feeling themselves. Like, I can't say enough about Corey Mace and the culture that he has instilled in such a short time. I mean, he was the defensive coordinator for Toronto. He has brought that level of defense to Saskatchewan right now. We mentioned just how well this defensive unit has been playing all year long, the takeaways that they've been creating. We saw that be the difference on Friday. This team is 5-1, and they are for real, and they're doing this without Trevor Harris. But we brought up the final play of the game, and this is one that, everyone is on one side or the other for Saskatchewan. Rider fans are outraged. Bomber fans, for the most part, feel like, what the hell are you doing running around for 6 seconds with a bunch of angry Bomber defenders chasing you? Get rid of the damn ball. Listen, I don't hold it on Adam Bighill to make that hit. He maybe did sort of impact him a little bit more into the turf than you normally would. But I'll say this, Remis, all it does is crank up the rivalry even more. And there'll be many more logs on the fire of this rivalry before we get to Labor Day in Regina. At Mosaic Stadium, I should say, on Labor Day weekend. Because that is a player that will be discussed all week long, and I guarantee you it gets brought up again in the days leading into the next matchup between these two teams on the Labor Day weekend.
Yeah, I get why Rider players clearly upset after the game, and Rider fans very mad online, but I'm watching the play and, what is there, 3-4 seconds left and he's running around in the backfield. I don't know what you thought was going to happen. What if Adam Big Hill gives up there? You're like, oh, look at Biggie. He's not playing full 60. He's not playing to the end of the whistle. So if you don't want that to happen, do what Jake Mayer did. Take a couple steps back and huck it. And that's what he did at the end of last game. So he's just playing at the end of the whistle. They didn't throw a flag. Was it part of it maybe a little unnecessary? I mean, you could say yeah, but he's part of the game. He's playing at the end. And if you don't want that to happen, you got to make better decisions as a quarterback. Paterson and Corey May seem to own that after the game. And it's just fans who are very mad online. And if that happened to Zach, you'd probably not like the guy who did it, but I think you got to take some ownership.
I'd also say, O'Shea, Zach, what the hell are you guys doing putting your quarterback in that sort of a situation? Like, you've got a 10-point lead, the final seconds, like you are not losing this football game. Keep your guy upright with a clean jersey. I mean, pretty simple to me. Anyways, we'll get into it with Hammer and with Derek Taylor coming up in a few minutes. One thing, and obviously there's not a lot to get to on the NHL offseason today, although Joe Pavelski did officially retire and put out a lengthy note. What a career Joe had. We'll start talking about whether he ends up in the Hockey Hall of Fame. Pretty incredible career for Joe Pavelski, and it was maybe a little more anonymous because he was playing for the Sharks for so long. But that Sharks team had an incredible run, went to the Cup final. When you look at Joe Pavelski's numbers for an amazing career, playing as long as he did, he's certainly in the conversation. But I did want to mention and give a bit of a thanks and congratulations to Connor and Liz. Their first deep dive episode came out on Saturday, and just awesome response to this one, Reem. And I think a lot of people checking this out actually from outside of Winnipeg as well, based on where people were finding it. But close to 2,500 views already on YouTube for the WST deep dive. And I know Liz was actually out at Super Spike on the weekend. She was in a great mood after the response of everyone. So there will be some more deep dives, if you will, coming out from the two of them on it. But a great start for the series and great response, amazing comments on the YouTube. So if you haven't checked that out already and you're dying for a little extra Jets off-season content, make sure to check that out over on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, I'm going to put if you're watching the replay, I'll put a little link over here. You can click on it. It'll take you right there. And yeah, they did a great job and a ton of views. It's July, so a lot of interest in the Jets prospects coming out of development camp. So well done. Recommend everyone check that out. A lot of people asking me if it was going to be on the podcast. I just did it on YouTube because they're showing highlights. They're showing video clips. I thought podcast listeners would feel left out. So it is on our YouTube and under videos. So take a look and enjoyable watch for sure.
No doubt about it. All right, so Derek Taylor coming up. We're actually going to bring DT on right away. We'll hear from Zach Caleros and Mike O'Shea. We'll do that in between DT and Jeff Hamilton. And as I mentioned, Seabears fans packed the house on Saturday. Joey Slattery coming on to give us the lay of the land on the playoff format and these huge final 3 games, including what could be a record-breaking crowd tomorrow for the CEBL at Canada Life Center. As far as the CFL goes, though, CFL 110 with Hammer and yours truly will drop on Wednesday. Lots to get to coming out of a crazy weekend in the league. Of course, CFL 110 is brought to you by Garage Living Winnipeg. Our pal Pat Kanuga at 999-1234. Pat's been getting calls from WSTers, and while summer seems like it's kind of just getting underway, they're booking jobs into September already. So if you want an extreme garage makeover or a minor garage makeover before winter, give Pat a call at 204-999-1234. Garage Living Winnipeg can help clear the clutter so you can have a clean, organized, gorgeous space to hang out, maybe even have the buds over for the big game. And that can happen in just a few days. Specializing in durable polyaspartic floor coatings, premium made in Canada metal cabinets, slat wall, and overhead storage solutions for a functional garage that looks amazing and adds value to your home. Whether it's a single, double, or triple garage, Pat can come up with a design to meet your needs within your budget. So give him a call for a free in-garage consultation, 204-999-1234. You can see all of their amazing work at garageliving.com. CFL 110 brought to you by Garage Living Winnipeg. Garages made for living. If you've got a move planned anytime soon, you got to hook up with our friends over at Roley's Transfer, the most trusted name in moving, family owned and operated for over 60 years. And listen, Roley's has an extensive logistics business as well, which takes them everywhere in the city and throughout southern Manitoba on a daily basis, which means flexible rates, flexible routes, and a great price for your move from people you can trust and count on. Get to Roleys.com, beautiful new relaunched website. Top right corner, you'll see the request a quote feature. Hammer that, let them know where you're moving, when you're moving, and what you need to move. They'll turn it around with a great quote for you and get you moving, taking as much of the stress out of a stressful time as possible. For your next move, use the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. For over 60 years, Roley's Transfer. For more information or to request a quote, pop online to Roleys.com. Our guys, friends at Consolidated Supply continue to be busy, man. We had a bit of a wild storm late last night. Lots of lightning, a little bit of rain. There's been a lot of rain this year, which has really tested irrigation on some properties. Consolidated Supply are the irrigation experts and the leaders in irrigation systems, but they've also got artificial turf, golf carts, is the exclusive club car dealer in Manitoba, and other great options for your property, including hot tubs, amazing outdoor kitchens, and of course, they are the leaders in small engine parts and repair, and have the entire line of Crest power tools as well if you want to check those out. Pop by and see Consolidated Supply at their showroom, open to the public, 1395 Niagara Road East, or find out more online at cte.ca. And as we bring in Derek Taylor, we might need a battery boost for that Bomber offense coming out of the weekend. Of course, when you're thinking batteries and powering up here in Winnipeg, Manitoba Battery is the spot, locally owned and operated by Donnie and his great staff. Now with 2 locations, the original one on Logan Avenue, the new one on the south end of the city on Dovercourt Drive. They've got literally batteries for everything. So whatever your needs are, get the best price in town, beating the pants off the big box stores, and the best service around as well, because you don't even have to go in. You can give them a phone call or check out at manitobabattery.com, and they will deliver those batteries to you for free with any purchase over $60 anywhere inside the perimeter. It's just that easy. Give them a call today. Pop by and see Manitoba Battery in store or order online at manitobabattery.com. All right, 2-5 on the season. Did not see this coming. And the Bombers lose to the Riders 19-9 in Regina on Friday night. Let's welcome in the voice of the Bombers on 680 CJOB, Derek Taylor, to the program. DT, how was the weekend after Friday night? Because I think for everyone with some skin in the game on the Bombers, it was a frustrating one. How are you?
It was awful, atrocious. You lose the game and then you're stuck in Regina. Like, that's just the worst. That's doubly the worst, right? Come on. There's the weird smell. There's the bad feelings. How many batteries does Winnipeg Batteries have? Because they need a lot to get that offense going, as you suggested. It was everything about the season is so weird, right?
There has been so many things that, frankly, we've taken for granted for the last 4 years just aren't clicking. The thing that is frustrating, though, if you would have told me, Derek, that the Blue Bomber defense was going to hold the Saskatchewan Roughriders under 20 points, I'm like, thank you very much. That's a win, and a big win for the Bombers. You can't really dissect this game without looking directly at the offense, and for the first time in a long time at quarterback Zach Caleros, and wondering what isn't happening now that had been so consistently for so long here in Winnipeg.
Yeah, that's why I'm thankful for Doug Brown, because in the post-game show, we would start talking about the defense, and Biggie missed a couple tackles and there was some pass interference calls. Well, he's like, sure, but they scored 9 points. And I go, yeah, you know what? The focus should be on the fact that the offense produced 3 field goals and a 4th field goal attempt from 61 yards. Were they in the red zone? Like, Caleros interception was the ball wasn't quite in the red zone, though the interception, I think it was at the 19. This is not the offense that scored 32 points a game last year. It is so far from it that you're right. Had they held a team to 20 points last year, they win that game generally in every circumstance. So yeah, it's uncomfortable. And it's so much of it to me is who did you pick in free agency and what happened to that person? They picked Brady Oliveira, Dalton Schoen. Schoen goes out for the year with an injury. Brady's doing Brady things, but does the rest of the offense have the time to do that stuff without a Jamarcus Hardrick, right? So yeah, it's so much of it to me comes down to, okay, guys are out injured and retooling the offensive line because it's a salary cap world.
Well, here, and listen, I'll give Doug Brown a lot of credit. He was not holding back at all when speaking about the offense and about Zach Collaros. And it made for some really great conversations because you have for long been the president of the Zach fan club. I mean, yep. Collaros Island, as you have referred to it. Even when people are jumping off, you're still there planting the flag. Doug made it tough for you. And the Bomber offense made it tough for you to kind of have that take right now. Listen, in your position as a longtime Collaros backer, realizing everything that he's done for this football team right now, are you concerned about where he's at right now and what's to come the rest of the way, or are better things ahead for the Bomber offense and QB1?
I think I'm a little bit concerned, and I think better things are ahead. So I think I've got both of them in there. Doug asked Zach on the CJOB postgame show, about these deep balls that weren't getting to the targets. And Zach said something to the effect of, I'm not sure what you're seeing up there. But as we were leaving the stadium that night, we were just recapping. Well, there was the one that was a knockdown by Deontay Ruffin in week 1. There was this one. There was that one. There was the one that Dequoy picked off in week 1. Zach was under pressure and had to throw off his back foot. But there are so many more where, as much as Mike O'Shea in the postgame show said, receivers have to come back to get the football. The ideal is that 45 yards downfield, it's dropped in front of the guy and he can run into it. Sure, guys have to fight for catches sometimes, but you would love to make it easy. One of Zach's greatest strengths is how easy he's made everything in his career, right? 10 to 19 yards downfield, bang, and you have a chance for yak yards. Oh, we're throwing a little curl route at 5 yards, bang, and you have a chance to immediately get upfield because he's been so relentlessly accurate during his time. But I'm waiting to chart out this week's game just to see where his deep ball accuracy and his deep ball rating is, because his deep ball passer rating was up to 47 in advance of the Sask game, and it was still the lowest in the league. You go, okay, this isn't just is this just Kenny Lawler and Dalton Schoen being out of the lineup? Maybe, or is there something different?
Well, listen, I've had a lot of time for Zach working back in. Like, listen, when you go 37-3 in 40 games at home, guess what? Fans expect you to win every single week. And listen, I think there is far more parity in the Canadian Football League this year than we've seen in a long time. And part of that is because the Bombers were so much better than everybody else. And as you mentioned, the cap, age, a lot of things conspire to maybe make it more an even playing field. But to the point about the arm maybe not being there, the play that I've been thinking about all weekend long, and I know you guys talked about it, that long bomb to Ontario Wilson, who had nobody around him when Zach threw the ball. It took so long to get there that by the time it did, it wasn't even a catch. Never mind, wasn't able to waltz into the end zone, which I think in previous years would have happened. Like, that was a bit of an eye-opener, I think, for a lot of people, Derek.
Yeah, and I wonder how much of that is the arm, and people talked about age and stuff. I wonder if it's maybe not that, and it's just not getting the timing that you want, right? Because deep balls can be underthrown or they can be thrown late, right? And they kind of look the same to us. I have a terrible time trying to figure out which one it should be. But if you're forced to take an extra beat because something different is happening at receiver, or some offensive lineman is now encroaching on your space because the defense is trying to kill you, okay, the timing gets a little goofed up. So I don't kind of see anything in practice that makes me think Zach's lost his fastball by any stretch. But you're right. Like, those balls that are, deep balls are not, when you look at them kind of across the board, more than 30 yards downfield, the ball's not completed a ton of times, right? It's something in the area of 35%. But yeah, you want to, it was one of the big beefs I would have with Jake Mayer or Cody Fajardo the previous seasons is you just have to lay it there so a guy can get yards after the catch. They can fight back to the ball if they have to, but there's all that space in front of them to adjust to it. And I wonder if it's still just not necessarily knowing receivers or receivers and quarterbacks not necessarily being on the same page. I wonder how much of that is in there as well.
Derek Taylor at DT on OB. If you're looking for him on Twitter, voice of the Bombers from CGOB, joining us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Lot to like about the defensive performance, though. I mean, you want to talk about keeping a team in the game. I mean, they did give up the kind of a broken play on that one touchdown. Otherwise, they were right there, but also need to give a lot of credit to the Saskatchewan defense. And I am so impressed with the job that Corey Mace has done. Like what he's had to deal with losing Trevor Harris. This is a team that is led by their defense, and they showed it on Friday night. And that play by Thurman on Dembski,
crazy.
I have to say that is as good of a textbook defensive play. And to get him on the left side and then come around on the right to knock the ball off, I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. Like, usually you fumble a play like that, you're kind of like, you have to have the ball security. It was almost a decoy with the left side because he moved the ball over to the right to get away from where the guy was. Next thing you know, it's down the field. I mean, credit where credit is due. That Saskatchewan defense was the best unit on the field on Friday night and, deserved the win.
Yeah, at beginning of the season, I started picking Saskatchewan to rise up dramatically and finish maybe second in the league because in free agency, they really prioritized some really nice players. And I can't believe Jameer Thurman is on his third team in the CFL. Like that guy, I don't know how Calgary let him get away a couple years ago. I don't know how Hamilton, I don't know what they thought, but they let him get away this offseason. Maybe it was Saskatchewan really wanted him. That guy's not even 30 yet, and he's been an impact middle linebacker for a long time, and he is all over the place. He chased down Nick Dembski. The middle linebacker chased down Nick Dembski. You're not going to see Sankey do that. You might not see Biggie do that. You maybe Ben Hladik does that, but there are not a lot of guys, I think, that make that kind of play that he did. And I mean, Anthony Lanier hasn't even popped yet, but he's solid. And Roland Milligan, like it's 7 games into the season. That guy's almost certainly going to be one of my all-stars, my CFL all-stars at halfback. He was awesome. And he missed, I don't know how many games it was last season. He missed a lot of last season with injury to the point where when we put together our top 50 ballots, not a lot of people had Roland Milligan on there. That guy is just a stud, just a monster. And that pairing between him and Deontay Williams, who at 225 pounds brings a real hammer with him, there's so much going right on that defense now. Even through injuries, they've been able to survive. But man, Thurman in free agency was just an A-plus move.
With the rise of the Riders and the Bombers' tough start, it's not like we need to add any more gas to the fire of this rivalry heading into Labor Day. But the last play of the game got a lot of conversation going. And listen, I think it's pretty much divided down lines as to which province you live in. But how did you see that go? And, I mean, was it over the line? And if so, who... because I think there's a big argument as to why that play even happened, which coach, which unit that was on. I say it's on Saskatchewan. Don't have your quarterback running around with a bunch of angry Bombers chasing them for no reason in the dying seconds of a game that you've already won.
Yeah, I'm of a couple minds in that game. Ultimately, I don't love it, but I didn't play pro football, so that's how I kind of go at it. It should be that play is, everybody knows what that play is now, right? Quarterback runs around till time expires, fires the ball out of bounds. I feel like they should treat it like a kneel down play. Like, hey, remember Winnipeg kneels at the end of the game against Calgary. Zach just waits a couple seconds, kneels down. Nobody crushes anybody. It's not the Greg Schiano Tampa Bay Buccaneers who thought they were super cool trying to blow that nonsense.
Great reference.
Right. So I'm curious, why isn't it treated like a kneel down? Because that's essentially what it is. It just run out the clock. And in a 2-score game like that one, I extra don't get it. The Calgary game last night, it's a 1-score game. If you force a fumble and return it, you could win. So your win probability is 0.4%, but it's not 0. The Bombers' win probability was legit 0 because there was no way to force a turnover, get it into the end zone, and have time for anything after that. So the guy who wants everybody to be healthy just wanted everybody to be cool about that, not try too hard, whip it out of bounds, and let's all go home. But there's a real argument for, are you going to tell my defense how to play football? Whoever's making the decision, Jordan Younger, Adam Bighill, Mike O'Shea, are you going to tell my defense how to play football? Why wouldn't I play till the final whistle when things are up for grabs? I'm more just because my focus kind of as a fan is when I know the game is over, and legitimately there was a 0% chance the Bombers were going to win. It wasn't small, it was 0. There was no way to win that game. As a guy who just wants everybody to be healthy, I wanted them to just run that one out and not have Willie or Adam go after Shea Paterson. But what's made these guys CFLers is probably the fact that they play all of every play. So I kind of get what everybody's thinking about. Paterson should probably also do it a little better, right? Should get rid of the ball a little earlier. I don't necessarily think that's victim blaming because it's still football, but everybody needs to, you can't really agree to it before the snap, right? Like, hey guys, we're all going to be cool, right? But you just need to kind of judge how your opponent is playing and play to that level, because if you're playing at a different level, it's a very dangerous game.
I question why the quarterback was even on the field. Like,
he's a second stringer. He's the short yardage guy. He kind of does everything for them right now. They're not going to pull out Jack Cohn.
Like, how many seconds are we talking about? 6?
Yeah, it was 5-6 seconds. I think it was 5, but yeah.
I mean, like, again, it's a 2-score game. There is 0 chance you lose. Like, in a situation that they're in with Harris already being out, it was insane to have that guy. And whether it's on him for not getting rid of it earlier and seeing it more, I mean, there's no benefit to Saskatchewan from where I'm sitting as to even having him in the vicinity of Adam Bighill, who's pissed off that they've got right now. So, and I'm sure, and it wasn't like they were all over it afterwards. And listen, if this was someone other than Adam Bighill, I have a feeling maybe the conversation's a little different. I mean, Bighill, longtime veteran, as respected as almost anybody in the league, maybe gets a bit more a benefit of the doubt. And the one thing I will say about that play, though, if that was there was no flags. I mean, so like they didn't even call it a flag. Do you think, like, if that's in the second quarter, for instance, it's a flag just because of the way he fell on him, right? Like that was what if you were going to pick apart something about it, it was maybe being a little extra enthusiastic and bringing him down and falling on him. That was what I thought might have been over the line. Other than that, anything else, I don't have an issue with it.
Yeah, like I think Darnell Sankey got dinged for one of those a couple of years ago, and I don't really like that rule of don't land on the quarterback, because when they tried to do it, they didn't. The officials on the field didn't really get it right. But as I saw that play, when I got back to Winnipeg, I went, yeah, that probably, by the CFL's rule, which I do not like, that probably should have been a flag, because he lands on him with a bunch of weight, drives him into the ground, but the game was over and no need to fire it up too much more. It's the whole thing is just kind of ugly. And the one thing you could absolutely do in that situation is Shea Paterson takes a shotgun snap and just starts running backwards. And you look at the clock in the end zone, and when it says 0, you just slide. And I wonder why teams don't do that. And then I go, well, because their rushing yardage for the game would have been 16 yards, and that would have been bad. I don't know why they would care, but that's what it would have been, right? So, yeah, there's different ways to handle it, but I feel like once you get to the back of if this was Calgary beats Hamilton 60-1, like happened a few years back, I kind of want everybody to just kind of stop trying real hard, just so everybody leaves the game healthy. I don't know. It's a very sticky situation. And what would you have done if last week Calgary attacked Zach Collaros' kneel down super strong because he was waiting and then puts his knee down? Is that do you treat that one different?
Well, a little bit. First of all, just because it's a kneel down. I mean, like, you're not really trying to do anything. You're not moving around with the time on the field. And that was also a 4-point game. So, I mean, if you want to spend a few extra seconds and stand up and give them a shot at you, you're asking for it, I would say, in that situation. But again, 2-score game. Why Paterson even had the ball in his hands, I don't know. Throw your punter out there. Tell him to punt it, out of bounds. Who cares? Just get the ball up in the air and a couple extra ticks off of it, and the game is over. And I thought it was avoidable. But as I said, it's just going to add a lot more to the week of hype heading into the Labor Day game a little bit later on. For the Bombers, though, they can't worry about the Riders right now. They got to worry about themselves. They go into Toronto on Saturday night, a place where they have not had a lot of success over the last years, even as they've been the top team for 4 years in the Canadian Football League, Derek. And the Argos are going to be in a mood of their own after allowing their arch rivals, the Ticats, to get off the mat with win number 1 of the season.
Yeah, for sure. Toronto's not last year's Toronto team. So when I kind of looked at this section of the schedule, I thought, okay, you're getting an undermanned SAS team with all the injuries. You're getting an undermanned Toronto team, again, with the Chad Kelly suspension, the injuries, and the fact that their defense had its bones picked in free agency. So there's a winnable one. And then you go into BC, you go against BC twice, who you played super tight. I thought, okay, well, this is a stretch where the Bombers can take 2-4 and make it 3-4. And hey, 4-4 into a game against BC. That sounds pretty great. And it did not go. Saskatchewan foiled that. And I didn't even win the 50-50. So I don't even know what to take from that whole trip to Regina. But Toronto will be a different challenge than the one time they played last year. And if you can handle Cameron Dukes in the scramble game, I don't know how much else that offense is going to put on this, what's a pretty good Bombers defense. So the whole thing will be, what can the offense bring? Because we got teased with one thing in week 6, and then there was a whole other thing for Bomber fans in week 7.
You know, considering where the Bombers are in the standings, I wasn't really sure who I was pulling for last night in the BC Calgary game. I mean, are we just going to say BC's probably the best team in the West and, you know, worry about the teams that the Bombers are chasing for the playoffs, or vice versa? Doesn't really matter, but a big win for Calgary, and just a wild last couple of minutes with field goals both ways, and then that fumble, the fumble that was recovered and then fumbled again. To me, the difference, I mean, I think if BC gets their hands on that football, Calgary's found a way to lose again. But credit to them, they didn't. Huge win for the Stamps, who are now 3-0 at home. Yeah,
Calgary has been super. I mean, that game's super impressive. I was going to say Calgary's been super impressive, but I don't know if that's necessarily the case. But defense holding them up, and the offense and some points does enough to get them through. But yeah, the fumble, and then they're running the ball to run out the clock instead of just kneeling it down. And then they take the weird timeout to get the third down throwaway play ready to go. Just finish it off. Just finish them off. Come on. Everybody wants to see BC come back to the pack because, man, I kind of thought the West would be tight and BC looked like they might get away with it. And now they're sitting in second place, and Saskatchewan's sitting there thinking, well, Trevor Harris is coming back at some point this season. Ooh, what if our offense is full powered? And what if AJ Ouellette gets rid of whatever ding he clearly had all the way through that game? What if this guy we brought up to be Jamarcus Hardrick's replacement really can get it done? Like, man, I mean, Winnipeg and BC could meet in the playoffs again in the first round. Like, if the Bombers get there and get back past Calgary. Well,
Saskatchewan is no joke. I mean, that much I think we can say unequivocally. And then when they get Trevor Harris back, they're going to be an even more dangerous football team right now. And hey, they're 5-1. They're getting wins without their starting quarterback. It's a very different mood around Regina than it was in the last couple seasons, and we'll give Corey Mace a ton of the credit for that. DT, great to have you on the program. Should be an interesting coaches show tonight. Tee up what's coming up on OB later on tonight, and how people can join the party.
Yeah, Mike O'Shea live in studio for the weekly coaches show from 7 till 8. We take your calls and texts at 204-780-6868. And Osh will certainly be asked about the non-existent pass interference calls, the Big Hill play for sure. Why did Zach throw that interception in the red zone? There's going to be a lot of conversation. I feel like, Huss, we're getting to the point where if it's not this week, in a couple weeks, people are going to start calling going, when are you going to Chris Strevler? Because
check the chat, man.
Okay, there you go.
There's always a few of those people. You know how popular the backup quarterback always is, even when you've done as much for this team as Zach Caleros has over the years. It'll be a great one tonight. I'll be tuning in just after 7 p.m. on 680 CJOB. DT, as always, thanks for jumping on. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Huss.
There he is, at DT on OB. I wonder if there'll be a call from Doug B on the line tonight, giving it to the coach or asking about some of this stuff. Definitely check out Doug Brown's Twitter feed. He had some pointed comments about the squad after the loss to the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Of course, all our Bomber reports and coverage on Winnipeg Sports Talk, brought to you by Princess Auto. The biggest supporters of the Bombers, quite obviously, as their home is Princess Auto Stadium. And, of course, get to the Princess Auto tailgate zone outside the game before every Blue Bomber home game for $5 beers, $3.50 poppin' hot dogs, tons of great entertainment, inflatables for the kids before every game. And also Princess Auto supporting Winnipeg Sports Talk. It's so much in our city. Founded in Winnipeg, headquartered in Winnipeg, and, of course, with 2 locations in Winnipeg, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West. You can pop by and see them in store for the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. And you can always shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. A big cheers to my pal James Hart, Ange, and the rest of the gang from Canadian Club. Canadian Club was everywhere this weekend. I took in Super Spike. They had a couple of great setups and displays. They were the big sponsor of that amazing summer event. I know they were busy with the Manitoba Stampede, as well as the Great Outdoors Comedy Festival. I got a chance to actually jump on a stationary bike, which doubled as a margarita mixer, which was amazing. The pre-mixed margaritas and whatnot were there. A lot of Canadian Club and ginger ale in cans. And we saw quite a few of those at the Comedy Festival as well. I mean, a big part of so many summer events in Manitoba and the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Great to see our friends at Canadian Club. And you can pick up CC and Ginger at your local beer vendor. And make sure to check out on all the ready-to-drink pre-mixed cocktails and, of course, the entire line of Canadian Club products at your local Manitoba liquor marts. A shout out to our friends at Wallace & Wallace, the fencing and overhead door specialists here in Manitoba. Since 1946, they've been doing it. You've seen their fences and trucks all over the city. If your property needs the security and protection of a new fence, or if winter did a number on your old one, give them a call. They've got vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, or wood fences. And if it's time to replace your garage door, they also have Winnipeg's largest selection of overhead garage doors. Give them a call at 204-452-2700. The Wallace & Wallace team will arrange a time to come out and give you a free estimate. Visit them online at wallacefences.com as well, or pop down to their showroom on Lawson Crescent off of Kenniston. And shout out to the fellas at F Apparel as well. Had a talking to a couple friends that were in weddings on the weekend who went and got some new suits, looking great down at F Apparel. Guys, if you look into your closet and realize that you need to up your menswear game, there's only one place to go in the Peg, and that is F Apparel at 190 Smith Street downtown. Custom suits beginning at $400, along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and an incredible selection of menswear accessories. 15% discount for wedding parties, by the way. So if you are getting married or in a wedding party, talk to the fellas about coming down as a group and getting a great deal at F Apparel as well. 190 Smith Street downtown. Find out more information online or book appointment for a fitting online at F, that's EPH apparel.com. All right. Hammer is going to join us right away. Before we bring in Jeff, though, we've got a couple clips that we wanted to play coming out of the game on the weekend. Zach Caleros, as the starting quarterback does, even after disappointing losses, met the media. And Zach just talked about the offense being sort of stuck in neutral.
We weren't good enough on first down for sure. Anytime you put yourself in second and 7 to 10 situations, the way they play is they kind of keep everything in front of them. I thought Brady did a good job of running after the catch tonight and trying to get us close to the sticks. I'm sure there were some reads that I could, will want back after. But they make it hard on you if you're in second and long situations. So that's something you got to improve upon, whether we're running the football or throwing the football. And then obviously losing the turnover battle. You can't throw an interception there in that situation. A one-score game. They end up scoring 3 on it. So it's either a 6 or 10-point swing there. So that's on me, and can't do it.
All right, there's a disappointed Zach Caleros after the game on Friday. Mike O'Shea also spoke after the game. Here's what he thought about the 19-9 defeat to the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
Not clean enough. Too many mistakes. Right, we had took the ball away. We take a young penalty. Right, the young guy takes a holding penalty, which is, they're going to happen. Right, but we got points at the end of the half. Probably we miss those. Then we drive down and we have an interception in scoring range again, and then just another giveaway, right? So if you can't play clean in tight games, they're hard to win. We just got to make a more concerted effort to really make good decisions.
All right, so there's Mike O'Shea, and this is a really interesting back and forth from Taylor Allen of the Winnipeg Free Press, and he grilled O'Shea pretty good about the lack of execution and production by the Bomber offense. Check this out.
Offensively, just what did you see from your guys? Obviously 9 points isn't gonna.
No. We like I said, we two giveaways in scoring position, right? So it's hard then. It's where they happen, and then we take one away in scoring position, but it gets nullified by a penalty. Which once again, that's just it's one of those things. It gets called on a screen pass. Our defensive end's got the running back wrapped up on a screen pass, and that's a tough one, but.
Just didn't look like Zach tonight. Some of the decisions he was making, some of the girls. What are your thoughts on this play?
Those are things that you're going to have to ask me about, a little later. Once again, we'll ride with Zach any day. He doesn't have to prove himself.
Why should people not be concerned about this offense? You guys are last in the league in scoring, and tonight wasn't, very encouraging. So just what are your thoughts kind of on this group?
Well, I think they've seen what we've done in the past, and I understand that might not be the future indicator, but get there.
All right, there's Coach O'Shea. Speaking with Taylor Allen after the game, let's bring in Taylor's colleague at the Winnipeg Free Press and the co-host of CFL 110. New episode coming up on Wednesday here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. It is time for the Hammer. Jeff Hamilton, what's going on? How was your weekend?
A wind up of my week of doing whatever I pleased. So
did you get to the comedy festival?
I did. I was there Saturday night, so I was there for Bill Burr. I thought it was hilarious.
It was amazing.
It was so funny. It was like I had general admission plus, like I'm sure hundreds of others and whatever. So like got there kind of late, sat kind of back. Like the only thing I would say about the show, like I don't even know if it's a negative or a positive, but it became more of an event watching people, because I kind of sat near like the drinks, like where the bar was on that side. So people were cutting through people, so they had to cut in front of people, and then those people quietly got more angry and like were changing the routes of people. So that was kind of like almost the highlight, but just the angst that people were getting. But anyway, it was a good weekend, man. It was awesome, but the weather held up, which was nice.
Yeah, and I mean, it was just so cool to see the park set up like that with world-class entertainment on a beautiful night in the city. It was put it
and
this
the mosquitoes weren't bad. Did you go? Which one did you go? I was there Saturday night. Mosquitoes were fine.
I couldn't believe. I think Bill Burr was the only guy that got attacked by them towards the end of his round. Once it was getting sort of dark, he was getting it bad. No, I wore shorts, thinking this might be a stupid move, and I did put some repellent on. I never saw one. So yeah, no, it was perfect, and it was great to have such an awesome Saturday, because Friday night wasn't very fun for Blue Bomber fans. 19-9 loss to the Saskatchewan Roughriders. We just talked about with DT. I mean, a lot to unpack from that game, Jeff, but I mean, the offense does not get a passing grade. Defense steps up and holds an opponent on the road to under 20 points. You got to find a way to win that football game. And in the past, the Bombers win that football game. They didn't this year. What were your big takeaways from Friday night?
Yeah, I mean, my biggest takeaway, I guess, is the Bombers aren't back. As we had suggested, following two, back-to-back home victories against Ottawa and Calgary, two teams that, depending on which week you want to rate them, aren't exactly the cream of the crop. So I didn't think it was going to be easy. I think when we spoke, whether it was on CFL 110 or my regular hit every Monday, we talked about how I thought it was disrespectful that the Roughriders were dogs in this game. It looked like the bettors didn't really care what had occurred during the first four games of the season for Winnipeg, and then focused mostly on the last two, and going into Regina, where it's always tough to get a victory. It's tough to get a victory on the road in any stadium. I don't think that was more obvious than this past weekend. So for them, for them to be favorites, I just thought it was super odd and disrespectful to a team in Regina that just seems to have found that culture, found things that we're making way less mistakes than Winnipeg. And so to see, to score 9 points, this is, I heard you talking to DT. Obviously, I think it's going to be a storyline all week for sure, and maybe longer depending on what happens in Toronto this weekend. But Zach Collaros just does not look like the Zach Collaros that we've been used to seeing really since he took the field in late 2019. So, is this the start of the? I don't even know how you want to describe it. I mean, how long of a leash do you want to give Zach? How long of a leash do you want to give the Bombers? We're not talking about knocking the rust off anymore. We're well into the season. We're more than 1/3 into the season, and this looks like a team that makes uncharacteristic mistakes, can't execute when they need to execute, and this overall isn't that consistent unit that we've seen, in previous years. And I think we're going to stop talking about previous years now and start focusing more on the present, because it doesn't look good.
Well, listen, I've got time for some of the things that happen. You're working with some new receivers. It won't always be perfect, but there's just some simple things. The decision-making is one thing. That I think, will probably stay generally good. Although, the pick inside the red zone, well, where I guess the Bombers technically were out of it, but where the interception happened was inside the 20. That one is, it almost seems like you're trying to force it. Just not making the right decision. But for me, the biggest concern, and this is something that I think is less correctable in practice, is just the arm strength. And there was that one play to Wilson where he was all alone 50 yards down the field, and the ball just took so long to get there, Jeff, that by the time it got to Wilson, the Saskatchewan defender had made up all that ground that he had created and made for an incompletion. And that, to me, I think, just the arm strength and the pop that we'd seen in the past that hasn't seemed to have been there, I think has to be the most concerning part. At least that's where I'm sitting.
Well, you had mentioned Doug B calling in to the coaches show tonight, and I'll reference one of Doug's Brown's messages, which I think are obviously ton of respect for Doug. I think it's a little premature to write a guy off who is gonna one day probably have a statue with this organization, but I do agree with or I don't know if it's agree, but I think it's interesting about that whole idea of your mind writing checks that your body can't cash. And that what you described is essentially what made Zach Collaros so special coming onto the scene. Yes, you have the throw, if you will, to the back of the end zone, to Darvin Adams against that Calgary in that last regular season game against Calgary that ultimately ignited the Bombers and Zach Collaros in this offense. But really, what was the biggest takeaway from Zach's emergence was his ability to throw into those tight windows, to test areas of the game that plays in the game that we just never saw with Matt Nichols. Matt Nichols was the ultimate game manager, right? Mr. Conservative. If it was, he wasn't getting dinged with a ton of interceptions, but he also wasn't playing to the very end, right? And you look at you talk about the interception. I mean, Zach rolling to the right out of the pocket used to be one of the most dangerous things for opposing defenses. And, again, trying to fire a ball in there that just wasn't hard enough, wasn't fast enough, wasn't accurate enough. And when you pile it on a season where, he has just 2 passing touchdowns to 7 interceptions, you're going to obviously get the criticism. Now, Zach deserves a leash here. I mean, he's done a lot of great things for this organization. He's delivered them championships. He's been the leader on and off the field, all the good things you want in your culture. Zach's, epitomized for this organization. And that it's not from a lack of preparation. Like there's, it's not like Zach's not working as hard as he has been in the past, but eventually, what can you do? I mean, the question right now for the Bombers is what can you do to support him? Is that support, I'm not to sound, tongue in cheek here, but is that blind loyalty from Mike O'Shea to not acknowledge that his star quarterback isn't playing like his star quarterback has played, and just continue to ride that wave and respect him and trust him and, give him everything that he needs or you think he needs to play and hope hope essentially that things turn around. I mean, that was essentially Mike's O'Shea's message at the end of the game was, continue to ride or die with Zach. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad plan, but the question about supporting him is the question I'd be asking if I was Buck Pierce is how can I find a package for a Chris Streveler? Maybe this is the movement towards a hybrid quarterback system, which was exactly what the Bombers employed in 2019. So I don't know why that becomes such an insult to Zach. I mean, Zach's got to acknowledge where he is. And while, if you want that offense to be solo or you want this to be, kind of your group, your unit, then earn it essentially. And as great as Zach's been. And, I think I'm certainly not somebody who's going to rule him out as a comeback here. Absolutely not. But I think there needs to be some acknowledgement that he's not getting the job done. And when you have a guy like Chris Streveler who brings a unique skill set to Zach Collaros, it's not like you're trying to replace Zach. We all know Chris Streveler can't do the things that Zach Collaros can do, but he can do some things differently and better in other regards. So how, I think the big situation here, the question is what can Buck Pierce do with this offense by bringing in a Chris Streveler, bringing in that energy, bringing in that unique skill set, while also complementing him with, the skill set that Zach Collaros has. I think you need to be a little less blind loyalty here and more so looking at what's going to give this team the best opportunity to win if that's a dual pack.
I get that, but I also say that, if you've got 2 quarterbacks, you don't have one. And, this is a team that, has lived or died, and they've been doing a lot of living on the arm and the leadership of Zach Collaros for a long time. And, if they're thinking about doing anything other than just changing it up, giving another look, giving Streveler an opportunity to move the football and, maybe, take a few hit points out of the defense, if you will, I think it's problematic. Let me just pull up some of these tweets from Doug on the weekend. He said, first of all, on the pick, worst decision of the game. No need to force that in there. Taking points off the board in the score zone. We sort of touched on that. And then he gets into the arm strength. With the number of underthrown deep balls we've seen this year, I'm beginning to suspect Collaros doesn't have the arm strength that he used to. That should have been a touchdown to Wilson, but had to wait on it again. And then another one just with the ball taking too long to arrive and not enough velocity, albeit, to be fair, throwing off his left foot. Now, after the game, he said, quote, "My arm is fine. Zero recognition. That touch, underthrowing the deep ball has been a consistent theme through these 5 losses." And then this is the key one. In my experience, as you age as an athlete, there becomes a disconnect between the mental and physical. Your brain keeps writing checks like it always has, but your body can't catch them like it used to. It's not always a gracious period and can be tough to watch, let alone play through. Hopefully, this is not the stage of decline that we are witnessing. Not necessarily saying that is happening, Jeff, but I will say this, at 1-5 as a starter so far this year, these are fair questions to be asking based on what we've seen from the 6 games Zach started.
I think questioning Zach Collaros' play is more than fine. And I referenced that tweet that Doug made. I didn't reference it necessarily agreeing with it. I do think it's a little premature. I think, Doug could give you several examples of players who stuck on too long, players who, played a few more seasons they shouldn't have. And there's one currently coaching the Winnipeg Blue Bombers right now. Okay. Everyone who watched Mike O'Shea knows all the accolades, knows all the records he set, but probably the one guy who you can recall in, memory here, who was told he had to retire, it's a guy who wasn't playing to the same caliber in the last season or two. Zach Collaros won the MOP back-to-back seasons in 2021 and 2022. And had it not been for a spectacular season by Brady Oliveira last year, he's nominated and is probably giving Chad Kelly a bit run for his money at the end of the season. So I think that there's some question marks there. There's certainly, I think some of the question marks would be even bigger. Now, if Dalton Schoen was in the lineup, if Kenny Lawler was in the lineup, look, I'm not trying to make excuses here for him. The fact of the matter is the biggest reason why the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are 2-5 this season is the play of Zach Collaros. It's now figuring out again what that is. If there isn't any issue from being injured in whatever week 4, week 5, whatever it was against Calgary, like if any of that's lingering, if he's not 100%, is it chemistry with getting on the same page with your receivers? A lot of the times, while it might appear to be arm strength, maybe it's timing, maybe it's, placement. Zach does know better than anybody on the offense where everyone needs to be. So I think before, demanding that Chris Streveler take over for the offense. And I think that's why I referenced the dual effort here, because I disagree with the idea of going one quarterback or the other, or in this case, having two quarterbacks mean you have none. There's nobody else there in the CFL that is like Chris Streveler. And Chris Streveler, while, had a valiant effort, you can say, in that victory, the Bombers' first victory of the season over Ottawa, that is not sustainable. That is not something that you can do week in and week out. Like, Chris Streveler is not going to bully his way to victories every year. He is going to be, like we saw in 2019, if he was to continue to play like that, injured. He'll break an ankle, or he'll end up on the 6th game, or he'll try to play through some catastrophic injury. So my point is that if Zach needs that support or help right now, he needs to remain, a key part of this offense. But I think you need to lessen some of the load by bringing in a notable package for Chris Streveler, so you're getting the best out of both them, not kind of good from either one.
Hammer, there was a lot of other things outside of the Bomber offense to talk about. And again, I hesitate to go too hard on this, because obviously I'm looking at this from a Blue Bomber perspective, but there were a couple PI calls that were very, very impactful that I think everyone on the Bomber sideline was stunned that were called. I mean, fair or foul on the anger about a couple of those PI calls from the Winnipeg side of things?
I'm one of those people who hate kind of criticizing the officiating, and not because I think their job's necessarily difficult, which it is, or that, the game's incredibly fast and things happen in a split second, which it does. You look at some of those plays, and I feel like those some officials are just throwing flags because they don't want to miss something. And the fact of the matter is, and the problem, the big issue, and we've heard Mike O'Shea talk about it this season already, is that you better have some damn clear evidence it's not pass interference, because the command center is not going to overturn those calls. It's shown, not just in Bomber games, but in games across the league all season, that unless you have evidence that shows absolutely zero pass interference, they're going to uphold the call. And I think there was even one last night where I don't think they got a good enough view of it to tell one way or the other. So I question some of the camera views that exist, in some of those situations. But Mike O'Shea knows that you don't, unless it's completely blatantly missed, that you don't challenge PI calls, because you're not going to win. And that's certainly been the case this year. I disagreed with both of those calls. I just felt like, it was a ref making a call like he didn't want to miss out on something. I felt it was a little WWE in the sense that all of a sudden the refs are part of the story. Like I thought some of those, but at the same time, the better team won. So if I don't think the Bombers at the end of this game can use those as excuses. They shot themselves in the foot far too much, and that you should be playing a cleaner, better game. So those calls don't factor into the explanation or the answer as to why you didn't win a game.
All right, now I need to ask you about the other big topic coming out of the game, and that was the final play of the game. How did you see that go down, and what was your if you're the judge, jury, and executioner, who is this on, and did Adam Bighill go over the line?
I just don't want the online backlash, but I was the guy who, like, in the first interaction, didn't mind when Mark Scheifele blew up Jake Evans in that play, just because that's the kind of style in which I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's right that you can't be smarter, that there aren't consequences, that the suspension didn't make sense in that case and all that stuff. I'm the kind of guy that I don't want people taking liberty. I don't want people who are perceiving I want my teammates to do that. And in this case, I mean, you even had Shea Paterson admitting it after the game, that it was just a respect. It was a guy new to the Canadian Football League who was chased down by a veteran linebacker who was, essentially teaching him a little bit of a lesson, and there was nothing but respect out of that. I think it was a couple things. I don't think it was Shea Paterson. I don't think it was him trying to, be arrogant or he wasn't taunting, he wasn't teasing. I think it was a guy who lost track of the clock and didn't want to make a mistake and would rather be taken out or down before, and to ensure the win, then that's all that mattered in that moment. I don't think he was like trying to rub it in the Bombers' faces. I thought it was interesting with the amount of time that was left on the clock. It wasn't as simple like, if there's 2 or 3 seconds, you can go into the victory formation and you can kind of huddle around the quarterback and you can wait a second and a half and then knee down. This was one of those cases where clearly you need to run back. We saw it in the Sunday night game, right, where it was a perfect example of what you needed to do, because the clock doesn't stop until the ball hits something. So, like, it doesn't go once, that was the big issue with the Bombers weeks ago, right, where they Zach was talking about throwing it to the turf. It needs to hit something. So if you throw it into the sideline, it doesn't go once it's past the thing, the clock stops. It's got to, like, hit a hand or whatever. So there was I think that was just a learning lesson. I think it was Shea Paterson far too excited about the situation and not really knowing exactly, what was on the clock. I think he needed to be smart about that. Didn't want to put his team in a situation where, maybe the Bombers could come back. Obviously it's a 10-point game, so you got to be a bit smarter than that. So I think he deserved that. I mean, I'm glad he didn't get hurt. I wouldn't have been celebrating. Like, I certainly wasn't celebrating, Jake Evans being hurt and carted off the ice. You never want to see that. I would have hated to see Shea Patterson, have an injury because of the result of that takedown. But to me, that's, you got to get rid of the ball or face the consequences. And that's where I stand.
I said this to DT. I mean, having the
That's
chance.
The other thing. It wasn't a bad hit either. Like, it wasn't like it might have been a hard hit, but it wasn't like big. But
he landed on him, and that usually does get flagged.
Which is again letting him know where that he's there. You know what I mean? Like,
they didn't throw a flag on the play. But listen, I mean, if I'm Corey Mace and realizing what happened, the next time they have a 10-point lead and a play like that, send the punter out there. Like, totally. I mean, you want to kill a bunch of time and tell them to kick it out of bounds if you don't want it returned or whatever. But
yeah, exactly.
There's other ways to kill that much time when nothing matters. I still
think it was as simple as Shea Patterson rolling out of the pocket, going down the sideline and throwing it anytime there. Like, it's 5 seconds. It wasn't 20 seconds. Like, he should have just known that was an option to him to throw it out of bounds. Like, to me, that's just like, you don't need to come up with an alternative plan. Just get your quarterback to throw it out of bounds after 3 seconds. Like, not that hard. It's not rocket science.
We've got a lot to get to coming out of the weekend on CFL 110, brought to you by Garage Living Winnipeg on Wednesday. Big win for the Stamps last night against BC. Hamilton gets off the mat for the first time. Edmonton is still winless. But just focusing on the Bombers, huge game this weekend when you think about what awaits after Saturday, and that is a home and home with the BC Lions. We're going to be in a mood of their own after dropping a game they probably feel like they should have had last night. What do you make of this week for the Bombers and just how important it is that the offense, the team overall, gets up to a higher level and gets the record to 3-5? Because, man, 2-6 going up against BC twice. With Calgary's win yesterday, they still have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be easy at all. I think I saw this morning, Huss, correct me if I'm wrong, if you'd seen them, I think the Bombers are favored by a point going into Toronto. And I don't understand that. To me, it's the Bombers are always in tough in Toronto, even when they've been dominant over the last few years. It just seems to be a place that Ryan Dinwiddie takes full advantage of. And I don't see that being much different here. I'm not suggesting the Bombers are for sure going to lose, and they're a 1-point dog. It's not like they're, the odds makers have them as a juggernaut in this one. It certainly is more of a pick 'em, but I just, until you see that level of consistency with the Bombers, I don't know how you can be all that confident going into games. This one will be an incredibly interesting weekend. We'll see if Janarian Grant can continue his run through the CFL right now, getting his third return touchdown this weekend. I mean, the Bombers, how badly could they need that badly? So that will be interesting. But I just, it's always a tough game there. And, while Toronto has been inconsistent, it was time for Hamilton. I mean, very much like the Winnipeg and Roughriders rivalry. It's that rivalry is alive and well between Hamilton and Toronto, and I'm not surprised that Hamilton was able to finally get the job done. But that doesn't, to your point, I think that's just going to make a Toronto team extra surly that they gave away their first, were the first ones to give a victory to Hamilton, and now they're welcoming a Bombers team that's also licking their wounds and hasn't been playing that well this season. You think Toronto's worried about Winnipeg? I don't think so. So we'll see what happens in this game. But for the Bombers, it's for both teams. It's getting back on track. It just feels a little more important that the Bombers do that ahead of the Argos.
Yeah, and you know what? This week I was talking about this with Pat Gregoire on the Lock Shop today. We were predicting the lines before looking at them. And I thought this would be close to a pick 'em, kind of like a point and a half, one way or the other. I see Coolbet has the Argos as 1-point favorites, but basically a pick 'em. Like the money line is -109 for the Bombers and -111 for the Argos. It's a 1-point spread in the Calgary-Ottawa game. Calgary's getting the point right now. They're a slight favorite on the money line. And the Elks 2.5-point favorites against the Ticats at home. One game there is no line for is the Thursday game, Saskatchewan and Montreal. All about the quarterback situations with both Trevor Harris and with Cody Fajardo. So that one will be off the books for a little bit. Well, we've got lots to get to on Wednesday's edition of CFL 110. That is for sure, Jeff. Enjoy the last couple days of holidays before you're back to work big time with a full day and then some, because I'll look forward to talking to you on CFL 110 coming up 2 days from now.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Like you said, I got a couple of days off, then I get ready for that Toronto game. I'm in Toronto this weekend. Should be an awesome game. Should be an awesome atmosphere. The CFL has just been so crazy this year. I feel like we say that every year, but this weekend was yet another example of just close calls. The parity so awesome so far this year. It just, even at 2-5 for Winnipeg, they're not out of it by any stretch of the imagination. But we'll see what happens here.
Well, for sure, and depending on what happens with the quarterbacks, I think that this should be like a spread of less than 3. And we'll have every game this weekend being close to a pick 'em or just a 1 or a 2-point spread.
I'm going with the under on that one if you're giving advice for people. I don't think a lot of teams are scoring points on either of those. If their quarterbacks are both out and their defenses are both going.
Yeah, well, the totals on the other games are all between 50 and 52. I will ride with you, and I think that'll be a much lower number depending on which quarterbacks get the start. Hammer, have a great one, and we'll talk to you in 48 for CFL 110.
Always a good time, my friend. Look forward to it. Say hi to Slats for me. It'll be a great segment.
Certainly will. Later. There is Jeff Hamilton, and again, Wednesday, right after WST, join us live for CFL 110 for the latest from around the Canadian Football League. All right, I mentioned it was a great weekend to get out, to take in the city. And it was also a great weekend to have a few beers. And I will tell you, Little Brown Jug did an incredible job of quenching the thirst of everybody at the comedy festival. A lot of 1919s. I saw Connor actually throw out a tweet of a 1919 in the WST koozie. I had generic lagers in my WST koozie, but they also had the Golden Honey Brown and the Golden Ale. All the Little Brown Jug favorites there as well. They were also running trolleys. The old Winnipeg trolley from Little Brown Jug to the Comedy Fest event. So all in all, a great one. And listen, the only thing that made that beautiful night and the great entertainment even better was the great taste of Little Brown Jug. Pick up generic lager 1919 and all your favorites at the tap room on William Avenue, as well as your local Manitoba liquor marts and, of course, your local beer vendor. Monday is hey, listen, it's a great day for a great sandwich. And might I suggest you start off the week right by powering through one of the best sandwiches around down at Hoagie Boys on South Osborne. 7 days a week, they're open from 11:30 to 7 p.m. And as Patty Neufeld's eyes grew wide when I was mentioning what the Hoagie Boys were cooking up, there is truly nothing like the wild sandwiches those guys are putting together. Now over 2 years in business down on South Osborne, cranking out the best sandwiches around. Make it the OG. Hoagie Boys today, South Osborne, and the Cosmos guys, the brains behind Hoagie Boys, also responsible for the amazing food at the Beer Can, which has been rocking right now with all this beautiful summer weather we've got, as well as the great grub down at Next Door at 116 Sherbrooke in the heart of Wolseley. And don't forget about Wingy Wednesday coming up at Next Door on Wednesday as well. Follow Hoagie Boys on Instagram and check out all the amazing sandwiches waiting for you there at Hoagie Boys on South Osborne. Hey, gang, the Olympics officially begin on Wednesday. Got to wait till Friday for the opening ceremonies, but rugby sevens, soccer getting going. You got your Canada gear ready to cheer on your favorite Canadian athletes? Get on down to Royal Sports. So much great Canada gear for you to show your colors throughout the Olympics the next little while. Not to mention Jets merch, tons of Bomber gear, NFL as the season comes in. We've got training camps going, Major League Baseball, we've got it all. But also getting outside, getting a little active. Amazing bike selection at Royal Sports. Soccer, softball, baseball, disc golf, tennis, running. It's all there. Make the most of summer with a trip down to Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Follow them on Instagram as well at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. And tell you what, Friday night was a busy night at your local Boston Pizza. We had that CFL doubleheader, 8:30 game to kick off the weekend between Bombers and Riders. Game didn't go very well, but you probably enjoyed it more if you were enjoying some ice-cold schooners, world-famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and more at your local Boston Pizza. Next time you're getting together with the gang for the big game, make it BP. And hey, if you are staying at home tonight, you can always order online and get the great taste of Boston Pizza delivered hot and fresh to your door by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. All right, big win for the Sea Bears yesterday. It was the big guy, Chad Posthumus, putting away the winner. And the Sea Bears are now into crunch time with a huge week coming up, expecting huge crowd tomorrow. Joey Slattery, our go-to guy for all things Sea Bears, joins us now. Slabman, what's going on, buddy? Great to have you back on WST. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. A little hungry, though, after all those ad reads, man. I can go for a generic and a Hoagie Boy sandwich right about now. Jeepers.
No kidding. That's like literally perfect. I mean,
that's got to be the hardest ad reads for you. I've just been looking at that like, oh, man, now I'm hungry. I still have how much time left?
Often I'm thinking about what's in the fridge and getting there as soon as I am done. But we've got more work to do. We've got Braxton Kuntz coming up. We've got to make picks. And I have a lot of work to do to catch up to one Michael Remis in our horse picks. So we got that done. But we didn't want to miss out on talking Sea Bears after a big win yesterday. Fill us in on Saturday night. This was a game that people were waiting for. Sea Bears came through, and they really had to. We'll touch on the playoff picture in a minute, but take us through that big win on Saturday at Canada Life Centre.
It had everything, Hustler. I mean, it had a marriage proposal. It had the storyline of the year, right? 5 minutes before the game, Mason Bercier had this whole ruse where she was playing Plinko, his now fiance, McKenna, and she turns around, he pops. It was really cute. He pops on one knee, she says yes and everything. But then he has to go play a game. I was like, man, the emotion in this one must be nuts. But I mean, this one was highly touted. I mean, I don't think we knew how big of a game this was going to be when the season started, but then you have Teddy Allen coming back for the first time. There's clearly a lot of emotion there. He got a bit of a warm welcome until he was booed every time he touched the ball. So everybody kind of made it known. It's like, all right, we're now in the new Sea Bears era, post Teddy Allen. But I mean, it was a gutty win. These were two teams that, you can't make up a more desperate game for either team. I mean, you had Saskatchewan and Winnipeg who were battling for that last playoff spot. And it kind of felt like the winner of this one is going to get that last playoff spot. It had the Sea Bears won by 19. That would have been the case, but they didn't. But Teddy Allen, he's had an emotional game, 24 points, so they're able to limit him. But he got a lot of help this game. There are 4 guys in double figures for Saskatchewan. But, man, when they needed a boost, the Sea Bears, they got it from Simon Hildebrandt, of all people, right? And I say that because we forget that this guy just finished his sophomore season at the University of Manitoba. He had 3 points at halftime, 16 in the second half, and for a total of 19 points. And he was just lights out. I mean, the confidence he was playing with in that game, Hustler, I can't express enough how impressive it was. I mean, he had some big dunks. He threw it down on a guy. He had another big dunk later on coming from the baseline. He hit some huge 3-pointers. It was probably the best game he's played in his professional career for sure. In a time that they absolutely needed it, where your season's on the line. But they came out. Chad Posthumus, another guy who played great. He had 8 of the 32 offensive rebounds they had yesterday. Not total rebounds, 32 offensive. They only had 24 at the defensive end. So this was a game, I think, where that veteran experience came out, where we have to start taking care of business. We have the advantage at home, and they took full advantage of it in what was an absolutely thrilling game.
Well, they now move on to tomorrow. And for all intents and purposes, this team is playing playoff games right now. Fill us in on the playoff picture and what Winnipeg needs to do to make it to championship weekend.
Well, it's still a long way to go. For sure, the big thing is to win tomorrow night. If they can beat Calgary tomorrow night, there's no tiebreaker that matters because they will finish with a better record than Saskatchewan. They have a half-game lead on them right now. 2.5 game lead on them right now, and Saskatchewan only has a couple games left as well. So they win that game against Calgary. They're in the playoffs, and that will solidify the playoff picture of the West. But then they have to go to Calgary and play them again. And this is where it becomes interesting because it will come down to Calgary and Winnipeg to host that final playoff spot, like the final hosting spot. So the top 3 teams do host a game with the exception of Vancouver, who gets a bye to championship weekend. But if they can sweep Calgary, they each will have 1 game left. Calgary plays Scarborough, who's playing really well right now. Winnipeg will get Edmonton, who has played well throughout most of the season, but isn't playing its best basketball right now. So there is a slight chance that they get that home playoff or play-in game here at Canada Life Center, which will be absolutely incredible, especially when you think that they're opening the upper deck for tomorrow night's game. But they have to win that game on the road, and that's where the team has not been good. They're 1-7 on the road. That needs to change if they want to make a run to championship weekend, because whether or not they get that home game in the playoffs, they've never won a home playoff game. They lost the home playoff game to Edmonton last year, and then you've got to win that game, whether it's on the road or at home, and then you've got to win the conference semifinal game, which is going to be on the road, and then the conference final game, which is in Montreal, championship game in Montreal. So this is a team that struggled on the road particularly, so they really have to take advantage of the win tomorrow and hope they can string a few together to get some confidence going into the playoffs.
So that game, there is the potential that we'll see the Sea Bears one more time after tomorrow's home regular season finale.
Yeah, if they will have a tied record with Calgary if they can sweep Calgary, and if they finish with the better record. So that third game, it could be, if both teams lose, and Winnipeg had won the 2 games against Calgary, Winnipeg would get it. But if Calgary wins the game and Winnipeg loses that last game, there's a whole bunch of scenarios to how it'll work. It's still a long shot, but it really does start with Calgary. You have 2 games back-to-back, a home and home. That didn't go well the last time they had them with Vancouver. They lost both games. So this one, if they can get on Calgary quick on the first one and then take one away on the road, they're due for a road win if you think of it that way. But it's going to be a lot. And Calgary's been playing really, really well. They didn't start off hot out of the gate, but they've really come together in the last bit. I got to see them play live in Edmonton last week, and Edmonton, who was playing really well to that point, they held them to the lowest franchise points scored in a game, and they were just clogging up the middle. Their defense was clicking, so I think it's going to be a rough one. Not a rough one. It's going to be a tough one for Winnipeg tomorrow, because defensively, Calgary can really tighten things up. And we've seen when the Sea Bear struggles and they lose that rhythm, they have a hard time getting back into it. They will have that home crowd, which they say is the sixth man. It's given them a boost all year. But it's really going to need that first one for sure. And then, if you get that tie with Calgary, because they lost in Calgary earlier this year, anything could happen in that second game.
Well, and listen, it's not just going to be a crowd. It's going to be a huge crowd right now, expecting to have the upper deck open. It is Fan Appreciation Day, so there'll be tons of exclusive prizes, extra in-game giveaways. And I've been telling people this for a couple years, but if for whatever reason you still haven't made it out to Canada Life Centre, tomorrow night a perfect night to do that, because I'd imagine they'll have 10K plus in the stands, all behind the Sea Bears for what you just mentioned, Joey, is a game that this team absolutely has to have.
Yeah, and it's funny, the last game, I met a few people that were there for their first game. And it's awesome to see, right? Because you get the same reaction. Oh, this is great and everything else, and how quickly people get tied into it. But it always kind of surprises me now. I'm like, I guess they've only been around for 2 years, and they've had 15, close to 20 games. They're not quite there yet, but I think it'd be 20 games tomorrow, actually, or maybe 21 games if you include the playoff game. But yeah, they haven't been around that long. So if you get out, it's a great experience for sure. And tomorrow they'll have the upper deck opened for the last game of the season for Fan Appreciation Night. Last year when they had it open, it was 10,500 people, which was the record. But then this year, Calgary opened their season at the Saddle Dome. That's the new record. I believe it was 12,500. So they beat it by a couple of thousand. It'd be cool. I'll be doing the color commentary on CJOB tomorrow with Christian O'Mell. I'd love to be doing that in an atmosphere of 12,500 plus. I asked the team, and they said they're not putting any kind of cap on it or chasing the record. They just want to get as many people in there as possible and share the experience. But you've been there, Huss. Even when it's was 9,100 in attendance for that Saskatchewan game. I put out some videos, and I had some colleagues in Ontario and out west saying, "Man, that looks unbelievable." And not even sports guys, some of my old news colleagues out in Ottawa and things like that, commenting on the video, just this looks amazing. And I tell them all the time, it really is. There's no way around it. You're getting the NBA experience. I've talked to some of the guys, whether they played in Winnipeg or came to Winnipeg with a visiting team. If they have any NBA experience, they say it's just like it, if not better, when you take away NBA playoffs. So the atmosphere that Winnipeg puts out is fun. So go in there expecting to maybe lose your voice, because once the game gets close, and those target score endings are always fun. So yeah, make sure you're ready to cheer. That's for sure. It'll be the best experience.
So cool for Big Chad to get the winner yesterday and be such an impactful force on the boards. I mean, early on in the season when Byron Mullins was around, he really wasn't getting into very much of the games. And now it seems like with the way this roster is shifted and been shaped by Mike Taylor, with the moves that they've made or been forced to make, he's back playing a pretty darn big role.
Yeah, well, and I said at the start of the year too, I don't know if the playing time helped, to be totally honest, but his efficiency was through the roof. Aside from free throws, that's where he still struggles, and he'll tell you that it's been, probably the worst season he's had at the line this year. But when it comes to everything else, his offensive efficiency, at one point, he was playing 6 minutes a game, but getting 6 to 8 points in those 6 minutes and still pulling down, 2 to 4 rebounds. But you're right, this last game, he had 20 minutes. And he was a huge force, grabbing down major rebounds. And for him to get that shot, too, because he did it twice. The first target score winner was called off. They called him on an offensive foul. And so he had to go and do it again. So he actually had 2 game winners in one game. That drew a lot of boos from the crowd as well when that first one was waved off. But he's a guy that, is the driver on this team. I can honestly say from the practices, shoot-arounds, you'll never see Chad Posthumus in a bad mood. And he seems to be the guy that, when things aren't going well, that wants to bring that positive culture into the room, keep things light, keep things, happy and cohesive. And he wears a lot of pride playing for his hometown in Winnipeg. So these moments, they don't come often. He had that first one in, for the inaugural game, which was huge. But you're only going to get a few games here in Winnipeg in your career. I mean, he's 33 now, I think, and 34 in that range. Like, his career is now winding down. So these opportunities aren't lost on these guys. I mean, yeah, it seems that we get a target score winner every time, but only one player gets to score that winner if you are the winning team. So to have that moment, you see that excitement, when you got that down, that big fist pump, and then Simon Hildebrand coming to give him a hug. It means a lot more to the local guys, especially a guy like Chad who never really got to play past high school here. Right, he went to school at Moorhead State, and then he played, overseas his professional career until the Sea Bears came here. So, and I think it adds a little to the crowd too. I mean, a target score winner's loud either way, but I think there's a little added, energy to the crowd when they get to see someone that they might have grown up with or seen grown up or look up to as another local young basketball player. It's kind of cool to see those reactions. But he's been a huge force, and I can see him being a big force as the playoffs go on, especially as the plays get physical, right? I think he's proven that he can pull down those boards and he can play in that range. I know he'd like to play more minutes per game, but he's happy in his role. But I think you could see him in from, 10 to minimum 10, 17 minutes. I think he's primed to play that kind of time. And if he does, I think he's going to have a huge impact because he has all year.
Give him a follow on Insta, folks, at Joey Slattery TV. More great stuff often behind the scenes from the Sea Bears. And you can catch him on the call tomorrow along with Christian O'Mell on 680 CJOB. Slapman, great having you on the program, buddy. Enjoy the game tonight or tomorrow night, and have a great one this evening.
Appreciate it, and get caught up on Target Score Weekly, YouTube, and everywhere you get your podcast. Appreciate it as always, Huss. Have a good one.
Appreciate it. Yes, of course, Target Score Weekly on the YouTube channel as well. Check that out for the latest on the Sea Bears and the CEBL. I mentioned right off the hop that our friends at the Gold Eyes are doing a little kids clinic today with many of the players. We are at the All-Star break, but man, the fish were hot going into the break. Winners of 6 in a row, 6 Gold Eyes at the All-Star game. And Andrew Collier, of course, down there as they welcome longtime Gold Eyes manager and former Major Leaguer Hal Lanier into the American Association Hall of Fame. Fish are pushing for the postseason right now, but we've got plenty more action coming up at the end of July and through August. Go to goldeyes.com for the full schedule, promo dates, and tickets. And get your butts in the seats down at Blue Cross Park for this upstart young fish team that's doing some great things on the diamond right now. 982 base if you want to get in touch with the office for more information on group packages and more. Got to thank our friends at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. I was out on the water a little bit this weekend just here in the city, and it got me that much more excited to get out to Aikens Lake at the beginning of August. If you're looking for a world-class fly-in fishing experience where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg, Aikens Lake is the spot. And as great as the fishing is, the hospitality of the Terren family and the Aikens team might be even better if that is possible. Go to aikenslake.com for all the information you need about what is possible, whether you're doing a corporate event or a retreat, or just heading out with a few close friends to spend some time off the grid and on the water. You can check out, there is, I believe, a very small amount of availability for the rest of the 2024 season and already booking well into 2025. Check them out as well on Instagram, Facebook, X, at Aikens Lake for more examples of the Aikens experience and all the gorgeous fish getting pulled out of the water this summer at Aikens Lake. All right, we'll get to the Assiniboia Downs picks in a bit. Coolbet lines as well. We got a little double shot of the Breezy Bend golf report today. Of course, credit goes to Xander Schauffele, now a 2-time major winner. 3 months ago, he was the guy that couldn't win the big one. Remember that? Well, he's now got 2 of them, including a claret jug for the rest of the year. Xander, with an absolutely brilliant back 9 yesterday, shot a 65 to win the claret jug. 4 under on his back 9, 2 under on the front, a bogey-free 65 at such a difficult golf course at Royal Troon. He ended up winning the tournament by 2 shots over Justin Rose and round 3 leader Billy Horschel. I really think that Xander won the tournament on Saturday, though. I mean, you knew you had to have a good final round. His 69 in those conditions, while so many others were getting murdered by Troon, really was the difference. Scotty Scheffler finished top 10. Sung Jae Im as well. John Rahm, Shane Lowry. But Xander is the man. And, despite the incredible season that Scotty Scheffler's had, winning the Masters, winning the Players, the Memorial, I think it's quite likely that Xander's going to be the player of the year. Now, there is one other big tournament coming up. The 3M this weekend, not so much. Following weekend, it's the Olympics. Xander Schauffele, defending Olympic gold medalist, look to maybe put a real exclamation point on his year, and we'll touch on that coming up over the next few days in the Coolbet lines. But good stuff for Xander Schauffele. Now, we mentioned our Breezy Bend golf reports. Shout out to our friends at Breezy. You can find out more on membership at breezybend.ca, or give our pal Corey Johnson a call. Incredible junior programs there and facilities, and that's a big reason why Breezy Bend's Braxton Kuntz is chasing history this year, going for 4 straight Manitoba Amateur Golf Championships. The Not Autocorp Manitoba Amateur began today at Rossmere, and Braxton Kuntz went out a little early, which gives us a chance to welcome him to the program right now after a great opening round of 2 under at Rossmere. Let's head to Rossmere right now and welcome in 3-time defending Manitoba Amateur champion Braxton Kuntz of Breezy Bend. Welcome back to Winnipeg Sports Talk. How are you?
I'm happy to be back. I'm doing well. Pretty happy with the round today. It's a great golf course, and can't ask for a better tee time first off. Played in 3.5 hours. So.
You gotta love that.
Yeah.
Listen, this is an event you are no stranger to playing in and winning. Going in with 3 championships behind you, what's it like? Is it any different going for a 4th? I mean, this is kind of a historic run you've got right now at the AM here in your home province.
I'm trying not to think too much about it, but I put so much expectation on myself, and I've kind of come into this week realizing it doesn't matter. I just focus on the process and take it one hole at a time. It's hard to do when you put pressure on yourself, but everyone has expectations, and tournament golf's a little different. So pretty happy with how I handled it here today.
Well, I mean, it is cliche, but you got to play the round yourself. You got to take care of each hole. But there is a lot of great talent in this tournament, and it's never easy, is it?
Absolutely. I mean, I can't focus on what anyone else is doing. There's a lot of great golfers out there. So as long as I'm happy with how I execute it and I manage it well on the course, I can't complain.
Having the success that you've had in the past, I mean, you've won these tournaments in different ways, but to get out there, to be under par, to know that you've got a share at the lead as you get off the golf course, I imagine that's pretty much mission accomplished for a good solid round 1 to give yourself a chance to make history and go for 4 in a row.
Exactly. I mean, golf is one of those sports, even though it's 3 rounds, you can really put yourself out of it right out of the gate. And I don't think I did that to myself here. I'm in good position going forward. So that's all I can ask for. And going to go hit the range, figure out the little things I was doing wrong, and come out hopefully on fire tomorrow.
Tell us a little bit just about the challenge of playing Rossmere. I mean, a great course. I mean, right here in the city. I mean, when it's tricked out for championship golf, I mean, how challenging of a course is it for you and the rest of the players in the field?
It's a course I haven't played in quite a while. So I came back here for a practice round with Golf Manitoba about a month ago, and there's a lot of trees. So lots of big numbers are out there. So my goal going in is, if I can keep a couple bogeys on the card, you're going to have the odd bad hole, but the birdies will come. So as long as I'm hitting it straight off the tee, I think that's really the biggest part out here. There's a lot of holes, a lot of par 5s where you can take advantage if you're in play. Lots of short ones, driver wedge into a couple of the par 5s. So I did that once and put it in the trees 2 other times, but overall I was lucky to not make any big numbers. Had a couple fortunate breaks.
Well, in a great spot right now, looking to stay on top and keep that Manitoba Amateur Championship with yourself and your home club of Breezy Bend. How's the summer been for you overall in between semesters out of Ball State?
It's been pretty relaxed, if I'm honest. I've played maybe 3 tournaments so far, so it's not too busy with travel. I'm working in the pro shop at Breezy. I love it there. And then I'm doing a couple summer classes. So I've had a mix of everything this summer. But it's been nice to maybe get more practice in instead of competition. And I think it's helped me sharpen my game, especially leading up to this week. I'm more excited to get out and compete again.
One big competition that you played in was U.S. Open qualifying. Fill people in on just that process, how you made it there, and what that experience was like for you.
Yeah, so I qualified down in Indianapolis when I was at school. It was a one-day qualifier right during final exam, so I didn't even think much of it. I didn't play a practice round. I showed up 45 minutes before with my buddy on the bag, and we just went out. I was hitting it terrible on the range and shot 6 under. So that's golf. I mean, didn't expect anything and ended up qualifying. So to get into the second stage was really a treat. I mean, I got to play with so many PJ players that drove down after the Canadian Open there in the Hamilton. So Niagara Falls, the beautiful area. The golf course was unbelievably good. And, it didn't work out as well as I would have hoped. I ended up finishing probably near the bottom, but still a great experience. Got to see what the difference is between amateurs and pros, and have a lot to take going forward.
Well, I mean, Braxton, as you compete for your 4th straight amateur championship, I mean, I just think about meeting you in that, that first year and the 3 years that have passed. I mean, now at Ball State, going into your senior year of NCAA golf, the sport really has given you some incredible opportunities to travel, to play at a high level. And, whether you're talking about NCAA golf, heck, the amateur right here in Winnipeg for Manitoba, or an event like that, it does want to just how incredible the talent is around, but also how close you are there to be competing with some of the best player in the world.
Exactly. And I think that's something I've got to see over this last year. I've played with a lot of the top college players and noticed the difference is so small. It's just a little consistency thing, right? Like the pros don't do anything crazy. They're just basically robots. They do the same thing over and over and over. So if I can make my game very similar to that, I don't have to hit it 500 yards and drain every putt. I just got to be more consistent. So it's really encouraging.
Now, obviously your focus right now is on getting out for round 2 at Rossmere, but we can see you're wearing the Ball State Cardinal uni there. Tell us about the upcoming season for you when you head down, and what your goals are for that final year of NCAA play.
Yeah, so it's crazy how fast it goes by. I can't believe I'm already in my 4th year of schooling. But I'm super excited to get back down there. Coach has already told us where we're going in the fall. Got a lot of top teams we're competing against. So I think it's going to be a great, ability for me to test my game against some other top players again and try and sharpen it right before I turn pro, hopefully next year. So I got 12 months left of amateur golf, hopefully, and I'll try and make the most of it.
Well,
lots of traveling too. Lots of traveling too.
We'll catch in. We'll check in with you on that in the NCAA. But for right now, it's all about a 4th not Autocorp men's amateur championship. Tell us about what the rest of the day is. You had that nice early tee time. What's the rest of the day like for you in the middle of a tournament? And when do you get after it tomorrow?
I got nothing planned. It's nice. It's like not even noon yet, and I'm just relaxing. We got, I don't know, I'll probably go get some food in the clubhouse, go to the range, work on the driver a little bit. It was a little rusty today, and then roll a few putts. Buddy's coming over later in the evening. We'll go work out and call it a day.
Good stuff. Well, hey, listen, congratulations on a great round. I mean, as of right now, in the clubhouse with a share of the lead at 2 under par, looking for a historic 4th straight amateur championship here in Manitoba. Braxton, I know everyone at Breezy's all geeked to see you do it again. Wishing you the best of luck tomorrow and for the rest of the tournament. Thanks so much for doing this, and we'll catch up again on WST soon.
Happy to be on. Thanks again.
All right, great stuff with Braxton. Good luck to him. 3-way tie for first place, the Not Autocorp men's AM. Braxton Kuntz of Breezy Bend, Drew Jones from Shiloh, Jaden Jones from the Whitewater Golf Club are at 2 under. Eric Prokopowicz from Dauphin Lake Golf Club, Zostrianos Jordani Gross from Shiloh, and Curtis Markison from St. Chuck's at 1 under par. 3 other players at even. Nathan Lepore from Centennial Pines, Cameron McIntyre from Rossmere, and Trent McCallick also from Rossmere. Should be a great tournament. Round 2 goes tomorrow. Round 3 on Wednesday. Again, thanks to Munsey for helping us set that up with Braxton as he got off the course today from Rossmere. If you're looking for some great golf to watch and you got a couple days off, head on down to Rossmere over the next couple days to take it all in. Actually, which does bring us, speaking of not Autocorp, to the why not question of the day. We'll talk a lot about the offense, heading into the game. I want to know how everyone feels about the last play of the game. The Big Hill hit on the final play of the game on Shea Paterson, fair or foul? That is today's why not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. Let us know in the comments, in the chat, and hit us up if you're listening to the podcast after the fact at Sports Talk WPG on X, or head on over to YouTube and throw a comment in. Let's get to the Coolbet lines. Baseball is back today. Well, it's been back over the course of the weekend. The Jays playing out the stretch right now. But there's some real good games today. Cincy's in Atlanta. Braves minus 147 favorites. Tigers at Guardians. The Tigers have their all-star Tarek Skubal on the hill, and that's why they're a favorite on the road at minus 133. I was staring this one down. I like the Brewers tonight at minus 125 at Wrigley against the Cubs. Cubs 2-4 in their last 6 games coming into this. And Patty and I today, when we were looking at everything going on, decided, you know what? Let's get into a little double play action here. Let's do a triple play today with a pitching prop, a hitting prop, and a pitching prop, a hitting prop, and a money line bet. So I'm taking the Brewers. We've got the Hunter Green strikeout prop, and then we're going to go to the Boston Red Sox game. Let me just pull up the Red Sox right now. Player total bases, and we're going Tyler O'Neill over 1.5 total bases. So we'll get that up in the exclusives. You can check that out, the Lock Shop triple play. And otherwise, we're getting ready for the Olympics right now. If you want to just spend 2 hours getting ready for the Olympics, just go to Coolbet and keep on adding load more, because there are literally props and bets for everything in the Olympics. And if any of you have tips for me, for instance, from things like swimming or rugby sevens or breakdancing, which is now an Olympic sport, at Hustlerama on Twitter, all advice is welcome. It's all there for you at Coolbet. Join us tomorrow in the Lock Shop. Dusty and I will be together. We'll talk more CFL coming out of the week, and he'll be with me for the rest of the week. There is a live golf event this weekend in the UK, as many of the players like John Rahm, DeChambeau, Hatton, Neiman stick around there afterwards, and then straight through to the Olympic Games for a few of those guys and the top stars on the PGA Tour, who I imagine, guys like Corey Connors, getting some practice in overseas, waiting for things to get going in Paris. By the way, if you haven't played at Coolbet before, use the promo code WST for a 100% bonus on your first deposit. Every week, you'll get a free 20% win boost for one CFL bet of your choice. And if you are betting CFL, screen cap that bet, send it in on email to contest@winnipegsportstalk.com for your chance to qualify for our special marble race in the second week of August to win a trip with me to the Labor Day Classic for Labor Day weekend. Trip for 2 from Winnipeg to Regina, transport on one heck of a fun bus, 2 nights hotel, tickets to the Labor Day game, some Coolbet swag, some swag from the tour. It is going to be great. So good luck to everyone that's entered. We'll have some more qualifiers in the next couple days from everyone that has been betting CFL from Winnipeg Sports Talk over at Coolbet. All right. Remis's favorite part of the show. This has not been my favorite part of the show for the last little bit, because he has completely done a 180 on the season, and now I am playing catch up. But I've done extensive research. I happen to be sitting with Stretch after the comedy show at the Silver Heights on the weekend, Remo, so I've recalibrated my picks, and I'm looking forward to tonight.
Have to bring in the ringer there, stretch of the Assiniboia Downs. What is there? YouTube with Kurt making the picks. Hey, if you want to bet on the Olympics, we have to give a shout out to Tyler Mizlachuk from Oak Bank, former guest. He is plus 10,000 to win the triathlon.
100 to 1 to win. What is it? 25 to 1 to get on the podium?
25 to 1 to get on the podium. I think he just finished 15th, and he's working his way back from an injury. He's had some top finishes before. He certainly got a shot, so I don't know. Why not?
I'll be hitting the 25 to 1 on the podium for Ms. Lawchuk just out of support for our guy.
And I was looking for Taekwondo. Skylar Park from Winnipeg was gold at the Pan Am Games, but I don't see Taekwondo on there. And I just was reading, just doing a little perusing, seeing where Canada's medal favorites, and they have her on there as well as a medal favorite. And Taekwondo could be finished, 4th or whatever. So we'll see.
One of the things we're going to throw up at Coolbet, Pat said today.
Yes.
Our men are actually the favorite after, because they beat France. By the way, great raid the other day into that Canada-France game anyone that was with us at the end of the show on Friday. Canada won that game. They're now favored ahead of France. So essentially the number 2 team in the tournament is Canada. USA is a massive favorite. But Canada's minus 111 to win a medal. And then our women's 3-on-3 team is tied for second in odds. The women are plus 300 to make the podium. So we're also going to get a prop on over 1.5 medals in basketball for Canada. We didn't qualify for the men's in the 3-on-3. So there's 3 possible medals. Can Canada win 2? We will throw that one up. But let's get to the track tonight. Live racing returns. Don't forget, no Wednesday live racing for the next 3 weeks. So it's Monday and it's Tuesday. And congratulations to all of our winners from the Pick'em contest. We will look forward to crushing that buffet with you all tomorrow in the clubhouse dining room. And then hopefully you can join us down in the winner's circle after the WST race. Remo, I'm starting in race 2 today. What about you?
I got race 1.
All right, fire away.
Do I have race? Oh no, I'm also starting in race 2. Sorry, starting in race 2.
All right, well, race 2. I'm riding with Finalize. Renardo Cumberbatch. She's the favorite, and I've got $3 to win.
I have Finalize. Wait, this is fine. Let me pull it up. I have, let me check. I have 5, 6 in this one. Finalize and Driving, finishing for second in any order. A $3 exacta.
Nicely done. All right, we move on.
I like it, Huss. You're trying to hit a bunt single there with Finalize to win.
You know what? I've spread it over 5 races. I've got a couple favorites. I've got a couple triactors. I do not have race 3.
Neither do I. I got 4, 5, and 6.
All right. I'm going triactor here. And the program selections, the AI smart picks are the same. I will ride with this 4-7-5 triactor box, race number 4.
Okay, I just got 4. No. Race number 4, I got 5, 7. 1, 2. Bits of Lemon Drop, Call the Cops.
Call the Cops is a... Call the Cops often gets second. It's always in the mix. All right, so there's race 4. Race 5, I'm going right back with the triactor. I need a big one. And I'm taking number 1, Last Renegade.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, East Rand. And number 6, Ethan's Animal.
Whoa.
So 1, 3, 6 triactor for race number 5.
I thought you were going to hit Rydem there. Rydem's been a pick of ours.
Has been good. We're liking Ethan's Animal today. It's the word on the street.
I'm putting on to win Last Renegade. I got $4 on Last Renegade. Just trying to hit some easy ones here. Big favorite, 5-2 program selection and AI smart pick.
All right. And then just a couple more winners. We're going number 8 to win in 6. That is Gallant Oak. $3 on Gallant Oak to win, just ahead of Mr. Dazzle. Thought about Mr. Dazzle. We're going to go Gallant Oak in this one. Pretty wide open race.
Yes, I'm on Mr. Dazzle. I had to do it. I got $4 on Mr. Dazzle to win.
Nicely done. And then finishing it off with a win bet on the favorite, number 10, no show, no call.
Yeah, I like it, Huss. You know what? You can't always try to hit the home run big bets. You got to take what's given to you and just trying to chip your way back. You know, I got a big lead.
I need positive momentum right now.
Yeah, you need to hit something.
Positive momentum. I saw what you did earlier. It's not like you've just been going Chalk City every single time, but let's make some winning bets as opposed to a bunch of Hail Marys and home run swings. And number 10 in the final race, no show, no call. Certainly not a home run swing. That's more like a single if he wins.
What were you minus 20 on the last race, or were you like minus 30 because we did the extra on the last race day? I forget what it was.
That was minus 6.
I forget.
I would have been
on July 16.
July 16.
We'll talk about it off air. I forget what we were. I was up, close to 80 that day.
It's easy to calculate because we've got a total.
Yeah. So, I got a big lead on you after I did not win a bet for a while.
The comeback starts tonight, folks. Banging off triactors, win bets, and then coming in hot into tomorrow, where we'll make some bets here, but then we'll bring. Oh, and I have a bunch of cash too already.
You have cash?
To go to. I have cash. I had some cash on the weekend. Was at a few digital only events.
Was Super Spike and the other one, the Comedy Fest, digital only, or could you use cash there?
I believe the Comedy Fest was digital only. Like, we were in sort of like this VIP suite area on the side, and there was a bar there. That was cash only, or that was credit only, I believe. That's what I used anyways for my trips up to restock on the generic. Super Spike was doing tickets, and they did have a cash. They did. You had option for cash. You had option for thing, and I didn't hit the food trucks, but I would assume that food trucks would be doing both.
I hated those events. They used to do that at Folk Fest too, where you have to get a ticket and then use the ticket to get. I know it's like the rules of the law, but like they make you wait in 2 lines. Like,
Super Spike is so well run. I mean, it literally, like, there's no line. It's just boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And think of the beer. Like, I'll tell you what, you end up, yes, you spend 2 minutes getting tickets, but the speed of getting your drinks is exponentially sped up.
That's true.
By the fact that you're just giving tickets and moving from there. So
that's fair.
They know what they're doing. Anyways, great crowd at Super Spike. What a show. What a party that is.
I just think those are that's like the government rules about you had to get a ticket. Isn't that why they did that at socials and stuff? There's all these like alcohol rules. I don't never put on an event, so I don't know.
That's a great question. I don't know. For things like socials, maybe. I think at the end, it's also just a way for accounting for the people that are doing it that make it a lot easier. But
I agree.
Or it might just be just to take the transaction out of the bar and let them sell more drinks and make it quicker.
I agree. I'm not going to argue that it is quicker when you just hand them a ticket than having them worry about change and math. Like, who wants to do math when you're giving out drinks? Nobody.
Definitely not. That's going to do it for us today. Thanks to Braxton, Kuntz, and congrats on a great first round at the Not Auto Court Men's Amateur today. Thanks to Joey Slats, and appreciated the Bomber Talk with DT and with Jeff Hamilton of the Winnipeg Free Press. We'll have more CFL talk with Hammer on CFL 110, which will be live after Wednesday's show. Tomorrow on the program, we'll dive back in a little bit into the Jets off season with Mike McIntyre. More on the latest in the Canadian Football League. And look ahead to the Paris Olympics as well. So join us tomorrow, 1 p.m. here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Again, shout out to everyone that said hi at either Super Spike or the Comedy Fest on the weekend. Appreciate all the support for WST. And We certainly appreciate the support from all of our Winnipeg Sports Talk sponsors who make this show happen each and every day. Cheers, folks. Enjoy a Monday night, whatever you're up to. And Kabilis and anybody else that has picked up College Football 25, I'm in business tonight on the Xbox. Let me know on that. Folks, have a good one. We'll see you tomorrow for a Tuesday edition of WST at 1 p.m. live on YouTube. Thanks for hanging with us.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube.